The office was silent except for the soft hum of the monitors. 3 screens cast blue light across Aleandro Castellano's face as he watched the timestamp tick forward, 2:44 a.m. The San Francisco skyline stretched black and endless beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows behind him, but his eyes never left the security footage. For 6 weeks, he had watched her. The maid. Aria Reynolds. The small woman in the black and white uniform who scrubbed his marble floors until they gleamed like glass, who polished mirrors until they reflected perfection, who had worked in his mansion for 2 years and spoken perhaps 15 words to him in total. Invisible. That was what she was designed to be. What all servants in his world were designed to be. But 2 nights ago, at 2:13 a.m., she had slipped through the service entrance carrying a black bag. A bag she never brought back. He had ordered the security expanded. For new cameras in the hallways. 2 in the kitchen. 1 in the garage. He was a man who built empires on information. On knowing things. On seeing what others missed. The Castellano organization controlled the Bay Area's underground. Poker rooms thick with cigar smoke and $100 bills. Import operations that moved through the port of Oakland at midnight. Connections that stretched from San Francisco to Sacramento to Los Angeles. 15 years he had built this. 15 years of calculated moves and strategic silences and men who understood the code without speaking it aloud. In his world, betrayal carried only one price. Aleandro leaned back in his chair. Italian leather, supple and black. His suit jacket hung on the chair behind him, pristine charcoal wool that cost more than most people's monthly rent. His white shirt was open at the collar, sleeves rolled to his elbows. A gold watch caught the monitor light as he lifted his hand toward his phone. 1 call to Sergio. Just 1. Sergio and Luca had been with him since the beginning. They understood loyalty. They understood what happened to people who violated it. His fingers hovered over the contact. He could see Sergio's face in his mind. Tall, scarred from a knife fight in Atlantic City, eyes that missed nothing. Sergio would take care of it quietly. A woman leaving a mansion after midnight with a black bag full of whatever she was stealing. Probably FBI. Probably recording conversations. Probably wearing a wire under that shapeless maid's uniform. That was the logical conclusion. But Aleandro did not move. Instead, he found himself remembering small things. How she kept her head perfectly down when she worked. How she never looked him in the eye. How she moved through rooms like she was not quite there, like her presence was something she could minimize through sheer will. 2 years in his home and he barely knew her name. He had never heard her laugh. Never seen her smile. Had he ever even seen her eat? Something in his chest twisted, sharp and unexpected. The phone sat on the mahogany desk between them, his hand on the device. Outside, the wind was picking up. The glass rattled against the frames, a sound like teeth chattering. Weather was coming. San Francisco weather, fast and violent, rolling in from the Pacific like a warning. 2:48 a.m. His finger touched the screen. And then the call came. Not from him. From below. From Luca's number, flashing across his phone, and Luca never called at 2:48 in the morning unless someone was dying. Aleandro answered before the second ring. What? Boss. We need you on the coastal highway. Now. Northbound, 3 miles past the Cliff House. We have a situation. A situation. In the Castellano organization, situation meant various degrees of catastrophe. Luca's voice was tight, controlled, but underneath it ran something else. Concern. Real concern. Send me coordinates. Already in your car. Sergio will drive. We need you to see this yourself. The line went dead. 15 minutes later, Aleandro's black SUV convoy rolled down the coastal highway. 3 vehicles, dark and sleek and expensive, wipers fighting against a thunderstorm that had turned the summer night into something biblical. Lightning cracked the sky white. Twice. 3 times. The ocean raged invisible to his right, its roar muffled by the rain hammering the windows. Sergio sat rigid in the driver's seat, his scarred face illuminated by dashboard lights. He did not speak. In his 15 years serving Aleandro, Sergio had learned that silence was often the most respectful response to questions not yet asked. The headlights caught something moving on the shoulder. A figure. Stumbling. Drenched. There, Luca's voice crackled through the radio from the vehicle ahead. Sergio pulled hard to the right. Gravel sprayed beneath the tires. The SUV shuddered to a stop, and Aleandro was already moving, already opening the door, stepping into rain so heavy it felt like drowning in air. The figure collapsed. A woman. Small. Dark hair plastered to her skull. The black and white maid's uniform soaked through and clinging to her frame like a second skin. And when she turned into the glare of the headlights, Aleandro saw what had made Luca's voice crack. Her left eye was swollen completely shut. Purple and black and grotesque, the bruising spreading like a disease across her cheekbone and temple. Her throat, God, her throat. Handprint bruises wrapped around her neck like a necklace, dark finger marks pressed into her skin so hard the flesh had broken in places. Blood streaked from her split lip down her chin, mixing with rain and tears and something else. Her hands. Her hands were covered in blood. Dark and wet and fresh, dripping onto the asphalt in thin ribbons that the rain tried desperately to wash away. She collapsed to her knees. Aria, Aleandro said. He heard his own voice as if from very far away. Aria, look at me. She could not. Her good eye was fixed on some point beyond vision, beyond present tense, somewhere only she could see. Her body shook with cold or fear or both, and when she tried to speak, the sound that came out was not words but something fractured and animal. Emma. They said. They said if I don't. 50,000 more. By tomorrow. They said Emma. They said they have. They know where. They said. The rain fell so hard it sounded like applause. Aleandro reached for his phone. He moved without thinking, muscle memory and training overriding shock. One call. That was all this required. One call and the question of who had done this would be answered and the answer would be final. But before his finger touched the screen, Aria's hand found his wrist. Her grip was weak, terrified, and stronger than anything he had ever felt. Don't, she whispered. Please don't call. They'll know. They'll take her. They'll take my daughter. Aleandro looked at her. At this woman who had been invisible in his home for 2 years. At the blood on her hands and the terror in her eye and the way her entire body was coming apart in the rain. He made one call. Not to Sergio. Not to Luca. To a contact he had not used in 4 years. A man in the Federal Bureau of Investigation who owed Aleandro Castellano a favor so large it could never be repaid. I need to know who is holding a child named Emma, Aleandro said. His voice was steady, solid, like an oath. And I need to know right now. The voice on the other end went very quiet. That depends on what you already know, Castellano. Everything, he said. Tell me everything. And as the storm raged and the rain fell and the small woman knelt bleeding on the shoulder of a California highway, Aleandro Castellano began to understand that he had been watching the wrong security footage all along. That the woman he had been prepared to eliminate was not a betrayer, but a prisoner. That his world, the careful architecture he had spent 15 years constructing, was about to be torn apart by forces he had not yet seen coming. But that realization would come later. For now, there was only the rain and the blood and a child named Emma somewhere in the darkness. The storm had only just begun. Now let us step back through the calendar and the minutes and the years, to find where Aria Reynolds' story truly began. 2 years earlier. On a morning when the sun was rising over San Francisco and she had exactly $5 to her name. 2 years earlier. The morning sun breaks over San Francisco Bay, touching the glass towers of Pacific Heights with gold, and Aria Reynolds stands at the iron gates of the Castellano mansion with her hands trembling. 28 years old. Dark hair pulled back so tightly it pulls at her temples. Eyes the color of wet concrete, holding something broken that she is trying very hard not to let show. She wears a second-hand black skirt and white blouse, her interview outfit, the fabric still carrying the smell of the donation bin it came from. In her pocket, pressed against her ribs, is a photograph of her husband. Dead 3 years. The only thing left that proves he existed. The housekeeper who opens the door is Mrs. Chen, 62, her face a landscape of indifference. She looks past Aria's eyes and settles on her shoes. Worn. Resold twice. The assessment takes 2 seconds. 12-hour shifts, Mrs. Chen says. Her voice carries the weight of someone who has repeated this speech 50 times. You clean what I tell you to clean. You speak when spoken to. You are invisible. Minimum wage. $400 a month for your room. Deducted from your pay. Understood. Aria nods. She does not speak. She has already learned the rule. The mansion unfolds before her like a cathedral built on money. The foyer alone is larger than any apartment she has ever lived in. Marble floors stretch across the entrance, so polished they reflect the crystal chandelier hanging 60 feet above, a constellation of light that must have cost more than her entire life savings. Which is $5. She has exactly $5 to her name, hidden in an envelope under a mattress in a staff room she has not yet seen. The East Wing first, Mrs. Chen says. Bathrooms. You use lemon oil on the mirrors. Not vinegar. Lemon oil. If I smell vinegar, you are finished. Aria follows her through hallways lined with mahogany banisters, paintings of dead Castellano ancestors watching from the walls, their eyes cold and assessing. A crystal vase sits on a side table. She does not know the artist or the era, but the way Mrs. Chen does not touch it tells her it costs more than her monthly rent. Everything in this place costs more than her monthly rent. Her room is in the staff quarters, a converted carriage house behind the main mansion. Single bed with white sheets. One small window facing the alley. A radiator that clanks at 3 in the morning. She has $500 a month before taxes and deductions. $400 for the room. $47 for the bus fare to Oakland and back, every 2 weeks, the only time she gets to see her daughter Emma. That leaves $5 for food that is not kitchen scraps Mrs. Chen lets her keep. Exactly $5. She counts it 3 times the first night, spreading the bills on the white sheets like tarot cards telling her future. The next morning, she wakes at 4:53, 3 minutes before the alarm she does not own but counts in her head instead. The darkness outside her window is absolute. She showers in the staff bathroom using the soap that sits in a dispenser, not allowed to bring her own. The water is cold. It wakes her completely. The marble floors of the East Wing begin to glow under her cloth, reflecting her face back at her like a ghost. She kneels for 12 hours, moving from room to room, hallway to hallway, using the lemon oil with precise movements she has practiced in her previous jobs. Hotel housekeeping. Restaurant dishwasher. Medical office cleaning. Each one lasted until she could not afford the childcare anymore or the distance became too far. Now she is here. Invisible. The other staff members move through the mansion like she is not there. A chef in the kitchen who never lifts his eyes from his cutting board. 2 men who bring Aleandro Castellano suits to the dry cleaning room, speaking Italian in voices so quiet they barely disturb the air. A gardener who passes her in the hallway and looks directly through her, his gaze landing somewhere 3 feet beyond her shoulder. This is what invisible means. Not that they cannot see you. That they choose not to. On her first Friday, she mops the grand hallway at 3 in the morning, the only time she is allowed in the main part of the mansion. Aleandro Castellano walks past her carrying a cigar, already lit. He is tall, 6'1", shoulders broad enough to block out the light. Expensive suit in charcoal gray, the fabric catching the light as he moves. His hair is dark, silver threading at the temples. There is a scar running from the corner of his left eye to his cheekbone, thin and white like lightning frozen in skin. He does not look at her. The space where her face should be is blank to him, irrelevant, the way you do not look at a painting you have walked past 1,000 times. She watches his shoes disappear down the hallway. Italian leather. Worth more than the second-hand shoes on her feet. The weeks become months. She cleans 17 corridors that Aleandro Castellano walks through, and 17 times he does not see her. She learns the rhythm of the mansion. The underground poker room in the basement where green felt tables glow under brass lamps, where men in expensive watches sit surrounded by stacks of cash so high they look like architecture. She hears the voices from above when she cleans the kitchen at night. Sergio's voice, deep and commanding. Luca's, rapid fire and sharp like knives. Aleandro's, rarer, deeper still, like something that only speaks when it needs to be heard. She learns which rooms to enter and which to avoid. The office on the second floor where papers are scattered on mahogany desks, each one marked with symbols she pretends not to understand. The dining room where elaborate meals are served and barely touched, food she will eat later, cold and out of order, protein and vegetables and bread she tears apart with her hands in her small room, rationing each piece. 6 months pass. 8 months. A year. She saves the $5 each pay period, wrapping each bill around a pencil to make it easier to store under her mattress. She counts it on nights when she cannot sleep, which is most nights. $30. 50. 100. The envelope grows thicker. She is saving for something she cannot name yet, but she knows saving is the only way to survive. 2 years pass. Her daughter Emma grows from 4 years old to 6. Aria visits her every 2 weeks on her day off, sitting on her sister's apartment floor in Oakland, watching Emma draw pictures with colored pencils, listening to her talk about school, about the girl who pushed her at recess, about the teacher who reads stories after lunch. These 4 hours are the only time Aria breathes. Everything else is holding her lungs still. Then everything changes. It is her day off. Tuesday. She is walking from the bus stop toward her sister's apartment, holding a bag of groceries she bought with some of her saved money, apples and cheese and bread, when a man steps in front of her on the sidewalk. 50s. Expensive suit in navy blue, tailored so perfectly it seems wrong on a human body. His face is handsome in the way that predators are sometimes handsome, the beauty of something that kills without hesitation. His smile shows too many teeth. Aria Reynolds, he says. Not a question. A statement. He knows her name the way you know the name of something you own. She tries to step around him. He does not move. Your husband, Marcus, borrowed $125,000 from me, he says. His voice is soft, conversational, the tone of a man discussing the weather. 3 years ago. Before his accident. That was very careless of him. Her legs forget how to support her weight. He is dead, she says. Her voice sounds like it comes from underwater. You cannot collect from a dead man. No, he agrees. But I can collect from his widow. And his daughter. That little girl, what is her name? Emma? She must be, 6 now? They grow so fast at that age. Something in her chest cracks open. I do not have that money, Aria says. I have nothing. We have nothing. That is the problem, the man says. His name is Douglas Hale, though she does not know it yet, though she will learn it the way you learn the name of a disease. 3 days, Aria. You have 3 days to bring me $125,000. If you do not, your daughter goes into my network. And she will disappear. Completely. You will never find her. You will spend the rest of your life knowing she exists somewhere in the world and you will never see her face again. He steps back. Smiles. Walks away. She stands on the sidewalk for a long time. People pass her. A woman with a stroller. A man on a bicycle. A group of teenagers with headphones on. The world continues. Traffic continues. The sun continues falling toward the horizon. She stands there with the bag of groceries becoming heavy in her hands, apples and cheese and bread, enough food to feed her daughter for a week, and it means nothing. It means nothing. When she walks into her sister's apartment, Emma runs to hug her, talking about her day, about the colors the teacher used to paint the rainbow on the classroom wall. Aria holds her daughter and does not cry. Her tears dried up somewhere on a Greyhound bus years ago. She just holds Emma and counts the hours left in her borrowed time with her, 3 days until Douglas Hale comes to collect a debt that cannot be paid. That evening, she boards the bus back to San Francisco. Back to the Castellano mansion. Back to the marble floors and the crystal chandeliers and the invisible life she is walking deeper into. The bus moves through the darkness. Rain begins to fall on the windows. She presses her forehead against the cold glass and does not move for the entire drive. For months before the rain, Aria Reynolds sits on a metal bench outside a coffee shop in the Mission District, her hands wrapped around a paper cup of black coffee she cannot afford to drink. The cup costs $3. She has $5 to her name. The morning is cool, fog rolling in from the bay, and she pulls her thin jacket tighter, the same jacket she has worn for 2 years, the hem unraveling at the cuff. A man sits down beside her. Not close. Close enough. He wears a dark suit that costs more than her monthly rent. His name is Agent Caldwell, and he does not introduce himself because he does not need to. She already knows who he is. Douglas Hale, he says quietly, watching the street. Do you know that name? Aria's cup trembles in her hands. She sets it down on the bench, untouched. Yes. He uses the Castellano mansion. The poker room in the basement. He meets his contacts there. He runs girls through that network, Aria. Children. Some as young as 12. We have been tracking him for 3 years and we do not have enough. We need someone inside. Someone he trusts. Someone he does not expect. The words land like stones. Aria's throat tightens. I cannot. Your daughter, Emma. She is 6 years old. She lives with your sister in Sacramento. She attends Bright Minds Academy. Last week she drew a picture of you for art class. A woman standing in the rain. Aria closes her eyes. She can see that drawing. Emma described it over the phone, Mommy in the rain, waiting, always waiting. Caldwell continues, his voice steady. Hale has loaned you money. $125,000. The interest is crushing you. In 6 months, you will not be able to pay him. When you cannot pay, he will take Emma. That is not a threat. That is how he operates. It is mathematics. It is how he stays rich. Aria opens her eyes. The fog is so thick she can barely see across the street. What are you asking me to do? Work for us? Continue working at the mansion. Gather evidence. Audio. Documents. Photographs. We will protect Emma. We will clear your debt. When we make the arrests, you and your daughter will be free. Aria thinks of Emma's face. 6 years old with dark eyes like her father's, with a laugh that sounds like bells. Aria thinks of the $125,000 she will never have, no matter how many floors she cleans, no matter how many shifts she works. She thinks of Hale's hands around her throat. She thinks of her daughter disappearing into a network where children become inventory, where they are sold like cattle to men whose names are never spoken. When, she whispers. 2 months. Maybe 3. We are close. Aria reaches into her pocket. Her fingers touch the photograph, Michael, her husband, smiling at the camera 6 months before the diagnosis, before the hospitals, before everything broke. She pulls her hand back without taking it out. I will do it. Caldwell slides a small object across the bench. A pen. A camera pen. This records video and audio. Keep it on you at all times. He stands and walks away. Aria sits alone on the bench, holding a pen that could destroy everything, wondering if she has just saved her daughter or damned her. The first gathering of evidence happens 11 days later. It is 11:19 p.m. The poker room hums with the sound of men's voices, cigar smoke hanging in the air like ghosts. Aria pushes a cleaning cart down the basement stairs, her heart hammering so hard she is certain everyone can hear it. The pen rests in her uniform pocket, recording. Her hands shake as she empties the trash from the corner table where Douglas Hale sits with Rachel Dawson, a woman whose foundation donates to causes around the city and whose money comes from places that do not bear close examination. Hale laughs at something Rachel says. His laugh is the sound of a man who has never been told no. Rachel's voice is silk. As long as my foundation gets its donation, I do not care what you do with them. Next shipment Tuesday, Hale replies. 6 girls. Ages 14 to 19. The buyers in Portland are paying premium. Aria's hands go numb. She nearly drops the trash bag. She forces herself to bend, to move, to breathe normally, though everything inside her has frozen. These are not numbers. These are children. Someone's daughters. Someone's sisters. She empties the trash with mechanical precision and wheels the cart away, not running, not hurrying, just moving like the invisible woman she has trained herself to be. In the hallway, her legs give out. She sits in the darkness of a storage closet for 12 minutes, her body shaking uncontrollably, the pen still recording in her pocket. The second gathering happens 6 days later. Aria enters Aleandro Castellano's office at 3:17 in the afternoon. The office is a cathedral of power, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a desk carved from dark wood that probably came from a forest that no longer exists, and on that desk, a leather ledger. She has been in this office 100 times, dusting, polishing, invisible. Today she is something else. She is a thief. A spy. A woman betraying the man who signs her paychecks. Her pulse thunders as she photographs each page with the pen camera. Dates. Names. Numbers. Payments to Douglas Hale. Dates and locations of shipments. Her vision blurs from the adrenaline. She hears footsteps in the hallway. Her hands are moving so fast she drops the pen. It skitters across the hardwood floor. She barely hides it under a chair before Sergio appears in the doorway, his eyes narrowing as they land on her. "What are you doing?" he asks. Aria's mouth is dry. "Mrs. Chen asked me to dust the bookshelves." Sergio watches her for 10 seconds. 10 seconds that stretch like 10 hours. His suit is perfectly tailored. His hands rest at his sides, relaxed, dangerous. Then he steps back and closes the door. Aria stands there, unable to move, unable to breathe, certain she is about to be killed. But nothing happens. The hallway remains silent. After 5 more minutes, she retrieves the pen with trembling fingers and leaves. The third gathering happens at midnight in a parking garage in Soma. The fluorescent lights hum overhead, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow. Aria hands Agent Caldwell a USB drive. Inside it is everything: voices, documents, photographs, evidence that could burn Douglas Hale's entire operation to ash. The evidence could also burn Aleandro Castellano. She has not thought about what that means. She cannot afford to think about it. "We are close," Caldwell tells her. 2 more weeks, maybe 3. Just keep your head down. "What about Emma?" Aria asks. "You said she would be protected." "She is in a safe house." "She is safe." The word should comfort her. They do not. Aria walks back to the bus stop, and she does not know that security cameras inside the mansion have caught her leaving through the service entrance at 12:17 a.m., the same time she left the previous Thursday, and the Thursday before that. She does not know that in the office of Aleandro Castellano, a man sits watching surveillance footage, his face hardening with each frame, his hands clenching into fists. She does not know that he has already made a call to Sergio. 3 days pass. Aria moves through the mansion like a ghost, her chest tight with dread, her stomach twisted in knots. She cleans the same mirrors 50 times. She polishes the same floors until they gleam like water. Everything feels borrowed. Every breath feels stolen. The weight of the secret presses down on her like a physical force. Then Rachel Dawson arrives, dressed in a cream-colored linen suit, her hair pulled back in a style that costs $300 to maintain. She corners Aria in the hallway while Aria polishes a mirror, and Rachel's voice is honey over broken glass. "I heard you had an accident," Rachel says, though Aria has hidden the bruise from Hale's earlier assault under makeup. Somehow Rachel knows anyway. "How clumsy you must be." Aria does not respond. "I have been telling some of the staff about you," Rachel continues, examining her nails. "About how you sneak out at night. How you go through Mr. Castellano's office. How you cannot be trusted. Who do you think they will believe, Aria? A nobody maid, or me?" The word lands like a blade. Nobody. It is what Aria has always been, but hearing it said aloud makes something break inside her chest. By that evening, Mrs. Chen reassigns her to the basement storage room, away from the main house, away from anyone who might listen if Aria needed to speak. The isolation is calculated. The isolation is complete. That night, in a parking garage 12 blocks away, Aria meets Agent Caldwell one final time. She is falling apart. Her hands shake as she hands him the last USB drive. She tells him everything about her husband Michael, the cancer, the $47,000 surgery that insurance would not cover, the funeral costs, the $5 left in her bank account. She tells him about Michael's death and what came after, about Douglas Hale arriving at her door like a wolf in a suit, offering money that was really a trap. "He said if I do not pay in full, he will take Emma and sell her," she whispers. She is 6 years old. She still has the teddy bear her father gave her. "I cannot let him take her." Caldwell's face is grim. The raid is set for dawn in 2 days. Both Hale and Castellano. And Emma. Aria asks, "What if Hale takes her before then?" "We will do our best." The words are not enough. They are never enough. Aria walks back toward the bus stop. The summer heat presses down on the city like a suffocating blanket. The sky is bruised purple, heavy with the promise of a storm. She walks past closed storefronts and empty parking lots, past the places where the city's forgotten people sleep, and she does not see the convoy of black vehicles following at a careful distance, does not know that Aleandro Castellano is in the third car, watching her through tinted windows, his face carved from stone. The next morning, Douglas Hale calls her. His voice is patient, almost friendly, which makes it infinitely worse. "Your 3 days are up, Aria. Where is my $125,000? She meets him at the bus stop on Fillmore Street at 9:15 p.m. The heat is suffocating. The air smells like burning rubber and desperation. A black Mercedes pulls up. Hale steps out. Rachel Dawson sits in the back seat, watching through tinted windows with a smile that could cut glass. Hale grabs Aria's arm. His grip bruises immediately. "Where is my money?" "I do not have it," Aria stammers. "I am trying." "Then Emma becomes inventory," Hale says. His voice drops to a whisper, which is somehow worse than shouting. "I have buyers in 3 states. 6 years old? She will earn back your debt in a year." The world tilts. Aria feels as if she is drowning in air. "Please. Give me 1 more week." Hale slaps her across the face. Blood fills her mouth. Her vision blurs from the impact. He leans close, and she can smell his cologne, expensive and obscene. 1 week. Then I take your daughter and you will never see her again. He shoves her into the street and drives away. Aria kneels on the sidewalk, tasting copper, her lips split open, knowing that she has run out of time, that Emma's countdown has begun, that nothing will save her daughter now except one impossible thing. That night, in that alley behind a closed restaurant, Hale comes again. He does not talk this time. He wraps his hands around her throat and squeezes. Aria cannot breathe, cannot scream. She is drowning in the dark with his hands around her neck. He slams her head against brick. Blood runs hot down her neck. He punches her ribs, her stomach, each blow a punctuation mark on a death sentence. "Tomorrow morning," he says, breathing hard, "I take Emma." Then he leaves her bleeding in the alley. Aria lies on the cold pavement for 6 minutes, unable to move. Her vision is blurred in one eye. Her ribs are screaming. She stumbles to her feet and starts walking, no destination, just away. The summer thunderstorm breaks. Lightning cracks the sky open. Rain pours down in sheets, soaking her, mixing with the blood on her face, and she walks onto the coastal highway in the darkness, drenched and broken and alone. She does not see the headlights until they are right on her. She does not see the black SUV until it slows, until it stops, until a door opens and a man steps out into the rain. She does not know that Aleandro Castellano ordered Sergio to follow her, and Sergio's convoy was 30 seconds behind, watching everything, recording everything. She does not know that the most powerful man in San Francisco is about to make a single phone call that will change everything. The rain hammered down in sheets, mixing with blood on her face as Aria Reynolds stood on the coastal highway in the darkness. Lightning cracked the sky open. She did not see the headlights until they were right on her. The black SUV slowed, then stopped. A door opened. Aleandro Castellano stepped out into the storm. He was 6'2", broad-shouldered and built like a man who had fought his way through every obstacle life constructed. His tailored charcoal suit was soaked through. Water ran down the sharp line of his jaw. His eyes, storm grey and penetrating, fixed on her kneeling form, and something in his expression shifted. It was like watching a blade wrapped in ice find its target. He saw the handprint bruises blooming across her throat, purple and violent. He saw her left eye swollen shut. He saw the blood mixing with rain, running down her neck, staining what remained of her maid's uniform. Sergio emerged from the SUV behind him, rain cascading off his leather jacket. He was built like a tank, 43 years old, with the scar tissue of a boxer under his close-cropped hair. His face was grim. "Boss, we saw everything," Sergio said, his voice steady and cold. "Hale beat her in the alley. Broke her ribs." He said. Sergio paused, glancing at Aria kneeling in the downpour. He said he's taking her daughter tomorrow morning. Aleandro did not move. His jaw clenched. Once. Twice. The rain fell harder. He pulled out his phone. His fingers moved across the screen with deliberate precision. Then he brought it to his ear. "Agent Caldwell," he said, his voice like thunder rolling through a canyon. "Move the raid to tonight. Right now. The poker room. I have confirmation on all targets." He paused, listening. "No. I will not explain how I know. You will move, or I will go in myself." Another pause. "You have 40 minutes. He ended the call. Aleandro walked toward Aria, each step measured and unhurried. He crouched down so they were eye level in the rain. His suit coat, cashmere worth more than her annual salary, absorbed water without seeming to care. "Aria," he said quietly. "Look at me." She looked up with her one good eye, trembling like a candle in the wind. "I know about Douglas Hale," Aleandro continued, his voice soft but edged with something darker than the storm. "I know about the $125,000. I know about Emma. And I know you have been working with the FBI against me for the past 6 months." Aria's face went white. Her lips parted. "I'm sorry, Where is your daughter?" He cut her off. "My sister's apartment in Oakland. Hale has men watching." Aleandro snapped his fingers at Luca, who emerged from the second SUV. Luca was younger, 31, with the careful eyes of a man who had seen violence up close and learned to be better than it. His wool coat was tailored like Aleandro's, but his hands were the hands of someone who did the work himself. Take 12 men, Aleandro commanded. Get the girl. Bring her here. Silent. No one touches her. If Hale has people watching, they disappear. You have 30 minutes. Luca nodded once and was already moving, phone in hand, summoning his crew with 2 words, go now. The wind picked up, carrying rain sideways. Why? Aria whispered, her voice breaking like glass. I betrayed you. I'm nobody. Aleandro's expression hardened into something ancient and terrible. When I was 7 years old, my mother was taken by men who believed she was nobody. Nobody worth saving. She was murdered in an alley not unlike the one where Hale beat you tonight. I swore then that no child would suffer while I drew breath to stop it. He reached out and gently lifted her chin so she had to meet his eyes. You are not nobody. And your daughter will not be taken. He stood, pulling her up with him. Sergio wrapped a coat around her shoulders, his own, water-soaked but warm, and guided her toward the 3rd SUV, where a young woman with kind eyes waited with a blanket and a first aid kit. Aria watched Aleandro as he stood in the rain, phone in hand again, speaking in low Italian to someone. His face was carved from stone. He looked like a man at war with the world itself. At 12:41 a.m., Luca and 12 men in black tactical gear moved through the streets of Oakland like ghosts. They found Douglas Hale's 3 men parked in an unmarked sedan outside Aria's sister's apartment building. Surveillance. Waiting for dawn. The elimination took 40 seconds. No shots fired. No screams. Silent and efficient. Luca took the stairs 3 at a time and knocked on apartment 312. Aria's sister opened the door, terrified, seeing men in tactical gear and expecting death. Luca showed her a photo of Aria on his phone. She sent me. Your niece is in danger. We're taking her somewhere safe. Pack 1 small bag. Anything Emma needs. You have 2 minutes. Emma emerged from the bedroom in a pink pajama set, her hair tangled with sleep, holding a stuffed rabbit that had seen better days. She was 6 years old with her mother's dark eyes. Where's Mommy? Emma asked, her voice small and confused. We're going to see her right now, sweetheart, Luca said, and his voice, like a man soothing a lost child, made Aria's sister trust him without understanding why. 12 minutes later, Emma was wrapped in a blanket in the back of an SUV, moving through the Oakland night toward her mother. Meanwhile, 20 miles away in San Francisco, at 1:32 a.m., 20 federal agents in tactical gear surrounded the Castellano mansion. Agent Caldwell stood at the entrance to the underground poker room, weapon drawn, and nodded at her team. The doors exploded inward. Cigar smoke still hung in the air like the ghost of a perfect evening. Green felt tables scattered with cards and chips. Cash piled in stacks. 7 men in expensive suits frozen mid-hand. Douglas Hale sat at the corner table. He was 54 years old, with the face of someone who had paid for everything with other people's suffering. His blonde hair was slicked back. A gold Rolex caught the light on his wrist. Beside him sat Rachel Dawson, the female villain with her expensive philanthropist's dress and her carefully constructed reputation. Rachel's face went white when the doors broke. She screamed, "Do you know who I am? I donate to the mayor's campaign. I sit on the cultural board. I have friends in." "You have the right to remain silent," Agent Caldwell said, already moving toward her with cuffs in hand. Douglas Hale tried to run. 2 agents tackled him. He hit the ground hard, the air leaving his lungs in a rush. He collapsed onto his knees, trembling like a wounded animal, his voice breaking into sobs. "I can give you names," he begged. "I can give you accounts. I can give you everything. The servers, please, I'll tell you everything you want to know." Too late. The other agents were already moving, already finding his laptop hidden behind a painting, already opening the hidden safe in the corner wall where 6 years of documentation waited like an accusation. Ledgers. Photographs. Names. Account numbers. Everything. They found the trafficking ledgers documenting 347 victims across 6 states. They found the payment records showing Rachel Dawson's charity foundation was a money laundering operation designed to move cash from destroyed lives into her bank account. Rachel was pulled to her feet, her expensive dress torn at the shoulder. Her mascara ran in dark rivers down her face. She tried to cover her face, but the cameras outside the mansion were already recording, already broadcasting to every news station in California. The socialite who funded human trafficking. Exposed. The perp walk happened at dawn. Douglas Hale was led out in handcuffs, chains connecting his wrists and ankles. Cameras flashed. Reporters screamed his name. He was broken, crying, his face contorted with desperation and defeat. Federal agents on both sides prevented him from hiding, prevented him from running, made sure every photographer captured his face. Rachel Dawson came next, her designer heels clicking on the concrete as federal agents guided her toward the police car. She tried to shield her face, but there was no shield large enough. Her board memberships were already being revoked. Her foundation was already being dissolved. Her name was already viral, the woman who looked poor people in the eye and sold them into slavery for profit margins. The police car doors slammed. Federal prison. Both of them. 40 years each. Not death. Death would be too quick, too easy, too merciful. Prison was the real punishment, time stretching out like a blade, days turning into years, years turning into decades, the walls closing in, the small space, the loss of freedom, the knowledge that everything they built had crumbled. Back on the coastal highway, Aria sat in the back of an SUV wrapped in blankets. Sergio sat beside her with a gentle hand on her shoulder, not speaking, just present. She watched on Sergio's phone as the news broke. Douglas Hale in chains. Rachel Dawson's face displayed on every screen. The mansion being raided. The ledgers being discovered. Her hands trembled, but not from cold anymore. The car door opened. Luca appeared with Emma wrapped in his arms, the stuffed rabbit crushed against her chest. Emma's eyes were still half closed with sleep, confused and frightened. Aria made a sound that was not quite a word. Emma's eyes opened fully. She saw her mother and her face crumpled. "Mommy," she whispered, reaching out with both arms. Aria caught her, pulled her close, and Emma burrowed into her neck, finally safe, finally home. The rain was still falling. The storm still raged across the city. But in that moment, wrapped around her daughter while 2 monsters were being transported to federal prison, Aria Reynolds understood something she had forgotten. The storm will pass. And you are far stronger than you think. Dawn breaks over San Francisco like a blade of light cutting through exhaustion. The penthouse medical suite is white and sterile, smelling of antiseptic and something metallic that makes Aria's throat tighten. Dr. Kemp, a woman with silver hair and hands that move with practiced precision, works in silence. She stitches the split in Aria's lower lip with thread so fine it is almost invisible. Ice packs rest against the swollen eye. Bruise cream, thick and pale yellow, covers the purple landscape blooming across Aria's throat. Each touch sends small jolts of pain radiating downward, but Aria does not flinch. She has learned not to flinch. The doctor finishes at 6:51 in the morning. "No permanent damage," she says, her voice like a stone settling to the bottom of a lake. "The swelling will reduce in 5 to 7 days. The emotional damage will take longer." She places a hand on Aria's shoulder, holds it there for 2 seconds, then withdraws. Some people understand without needing explanation. The door opens. Luca enters carrying Emma wrapped in a blanket printed with yellow stars, the child's small face barely visible above the fabric. Emma's eyes are still heavy with sleep, confused and searching. She does not recognize where she is. She has not slept in a real bed in 8 months. Aria makes a sound that is not quite a word. Emma's eyes open fully. She sees her mother and her face crumples like paper catching fire. "Mommy," she whispers, reaching out with both arms. Aria stands, ignoring the pain that splinters across her ribs, and catches her daughter. Emma burrows into her neck, inhaling deeply, her small hands gripping Aria's shirt like she will never let go. Aria holds her so tightly that she fears she might break something inside the small body, but she cannot stop. 2 years. 2 years of being separated by Douglas Hale's cruelty, by the walls of the safe house where Emma lived under assumed names. 2 years of Aria working midnight shifts, scrubbing marble floors on bleeding knees, knowing her daughter was breathing somewhere in this city but unable to touch her. "You're safe," Aria whispers into her daughter's hair, tears streaming down her face. "You're safe. Mommy's got you. Mommy's got you." Emma does not speak. She only cries, her small body shaking with sobs that have been waiting 2 years to escape. Luca leaves quietly. In the doorway, Aleandro Castellano watches. His face is unreadable, but something moves behind his eyes, something dark and heavy, like a stone sinking through water. In 23 years of building an empire, he has never seen anything like this. He turns and walks away without speaking. The week that follows moves in fragments, each piece a small victory against despair. Douglas Hale is arraigned on federal charges at 9:15 on a Tuesday morning. The courthouse is swarming with federal agents and news cameras. He is led in chains, his expensive suit wrinkled, his face gray with the color of a man watching his life being dismantled one charge at a time. Human trafficking. Money laundering. Racketeering. Conspiracy to commit violence. The list stretches like a blade through him. His bail is denied. He will wait in federal custody for trial. By the end of that same day, Rachel Dawson's name is called. She arrives at the courthouse in a car with tinted windows, trying to shield her face, but there is no shield large enough for what is coming. Her board memberships are already being revoked. Her foundation is being dissolved. Her social media accounts are filling with comments from the women and girls she trafficked, their faces displayed on screens across the country. The woman who looked poor people in the eye and sold them into slavery for profit margins. The woman who smiled while signing away futures. The police car doors slam. Federal prison. 40-year sentence. Not death. Death would be too quick, too easy, too merciful. Prison is the real punishment. Time stretching like a blade wrapped in ice. Days turning into years. Years turning into decades. Walls closing in. The small space where her empire means nothing. The news calls it the largest trafficking bust in West Coast history. 63 victims recovered. 200 arrests across 4 states. The ledgers from Hale's office reveal names, dates, prices. Every girl. Every woman. Each one a small number in his accounting of human suffering. Aria watches from a hotel room that Aleandro paid for. The screen glows with images of federal agents in black jackets walking through the underground poker room, leading handcuffed men through hallways. Green felt tables abandoned. Cigar smoke still hanging in the air like ghosts. She watches until her eyes burn. Agent Caldwell visits her on Friday morning. He is a man in his 50s with tired eyes that have seen too much darkness. He sits on the edge of a chair like he might need to leave quickly. "The debt is cleared," he says. His words land like stones. Hale's assets are being seized to compensate his victims. "You're free." Aria's hands shake. What about Aleandro Castellano? He ran that poker room. He has to be arrested. Caldwell looks uncomfortable, the way men look when they are carrying secrets they do not want to speak aloud. The poker room charges were dropped. Insufficient evidence after Hale's files were reviewed. Mr. Castellano cooperated fully with our investigation. Aria understands then. The pieces fit together like a lock clicking open. Aleandro made a deal. He gave them Hale in exchange for immunity. An entire criminal empire traded for a woman and her daughter. The weight of that transaction is so enormous it nearly breaks her. Why would he do that, she asks. Caldwell shrugs, but his eyes are kind. You would have to ask him. But Aria does not see Aleandro Castellano again. He vanishes like smoke. The mansion is sold within weeks. Sergio and Luca disappear into the city's shadows. It is as if Aleandro Castellano never existed, never walked through rooms with the weight of a man carrying blood on his conscience, never stood in doorways watching her daughter sleep. 1 year passes in fragments and small victories. Aria gets a legitimate job at a non-profit called Sisters Rising, helping trafficking survivors rebuild their lives. She earns $18 an hour. She moves into a small apartment in the Sunset District with Emma, 3 rooms, and a kitchen that smells like possibility. She saves money in a jar beside her bed. By month 3, she has $800. By month 6, $2,000. By month 9, she opens a savings account. The black eye fades to yellow, then disappears completely. The bruises fade. The scars remain, but scars are just proof that you survived. Emma starts 2nd grade. She is 7 years old and she reads at a 4th grade level because of a volunteer teacher who spent 2 hours every week in the safe house, teaching her that the world contains more than danger. Aria takes her to school and picks her up, and sometimes Emma falls asleep against her shoulder in the car, and Aria drives slowly, not wanting the moment to end. For the first time in 2 years, Aria sleeps through the night. She wakes without the weight of a debt crushing her chest. She wakes without the sound of Douglas Hale's voice in her head. She wakes and her daughter is breathing in the next room, and that is everything. On the mantel beside her bed, she keeps a photo in a frame. Michael, her husband, smiling at the camera with his arm around her from 6 years ago. He was a carpenter. He was kind. He died of a sudden infection that the hospital said could not have been prevented, but Aria has spent years blaming herself anyway. She touches the frame sometimes and whispers, "Thank you for giving me the strength to fight." The non-profit invites her to speak at a fundraising gala 1 year and 2 months after the raid. It is a celebration for trafficking survivors' recovery programs, held in a penthouse in the financial district. Aria almost refuses. She does not own a gala dress. She has never been to a place where wealthy people gather. She is still the woman who counted pennies. Still the woman who scrubbed marble floors on bleeding knees. But her co-worker, a woman named Jenna, brings her a dress from home. Navy blue and simple, with small white buttons down the front. It fits perfectly. Aria stands in front of the mirror and barely recognizes herself. The gala is on the 40th floor of a building that touches clouds. The room smells like expensive perfume and old money. There are women in diamonds and men in tailored suits. There are conversations about foundations and tax deductions and impact metrics. Aria stands near the edge of the room, holding a glass of water, feeling invisible despite being visible. At 9:23 p.m., she steps onto the penthouse balcony for air. The San Francisco fog rolls in, coating the city in white, the Golden Gate Bridge barely visible beyond the mist. The city below is reduced to scattered lights, everything softened and strange. She stands at the railing, thinking of everything that happened, everything that changed. 2 years ago, she was running through rain with blood on her hands. Now she is standing in a borrowed dress at a gala celebrating survivors. She hears footsteps behind her. She turns. Aleandro Castellano stands in the doorway, wearing a dark suit that costs more than her first 3 months of rent. He looks older. There are silver threads in his hair now, deepening the intensity of his dark eyes. He looks tired, but something in his face is lighter, like a weight has shifted. "You are here," she says. He steps onto the balcony. The fog swallows them both. "I am on the non-profit board. I have been funding it for 8 months. The Survivor Housing Program. The Job Training Initiative. The Legal Aid Clinic." He pauses. "Your program has helped 317 women and girls return to functional lives. 317 people who are no longer invisible." Aria stares at him. "Why?" Aleandro turns to face the fog. His voice is quiet but solid. "Because I know what it is like to be powerless. And I decided I was done making money off other people's suffering. Silence settles between them like a living thing. Then Aria asks the question that has haunted her for a year: why did you help me? You knew I was working with the FBI against you. In your world, that should have been a death sentence. Aleandro closes his eyes. When he opens them again, something in him has shifted. I knew you were meeting with Agent Caldwell for 6 weeks before that night. Sergio wanted to kill you. Luca wanted to make you disappear. But I watched you, Aria. I saw you take the bus 2 hours to see your daughter for 4 hours and then come back and scrub floors until midnight. I saw you keep a photograph of your dead husband in your pocket and cry when you thought no one was watching. I saw you save $5 at a time like it was a fortune. And I realized you were not betraying me for money or power. You were trying to save your child. So I made a choice. I could kill you and prove I was the monster everyone said I was. Or I could let you save yourself and maybe save a part of me too. Aria's eyes fill with tears. You let the FBI raid you. You gave up your entire empire. I gave up an empire built on blood, Aleandro says quietly. And I found something better. Look at you now. Running programs. Helping survivors. Raising your daughter. Sleeping through the night. Being strong. I was terrified every single day. Being strong does not mean not being afraid, Aleandro says. His voice carries the weight of hard-earned wisdom. It means being afraid and fighting anyway. You fought for your daughter when you had nothing. Not money. Not power. Just love. That is the strongest thing in the world. They stand on the balcony as fog swirls around them, as the city lights blur below like stars falling into ocean. Aleandro says quietly, the storm will pass, and you are far stronger than you think. He walks to the door, then pauses. Your daughter is lucky to have you. He leaves. Aria stands alone on the balcony, crying, but this time the tears are different. They are tears of relief. Tears of release. Tears of finally being free. Sometimes the people we fear most see the strength in us before we see it ourselves. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is survive another day and fight for the ones you love. The debt does not define you. The fear does not define you. Your courage does. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a like and subscribe because tomorrow we have another story about survival, strength, and second chances. You will not want to miss it. Thank you for staying with us until the very end. We wish you good health, joy, and peace. The storm will pass, and you are far stronger than you think.